Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into something pretty huge. Many are calling it the most profound transformation of the digital landscape since mobile browsing came along. We're talking about the rapid, almost inescapable integration of large language models, LLMs, and generative AI right into search engines.
Yeah, it's really reshaping everything. How we find information, how businesses connect with you, the audience. It's a fundamental shift.
Absolutely. And our mission today is to really unpack a strategic blueprint for website redevelopment. Think of it as your shortcut to understanding what it genuinely takes to evolve your website from, just a static digital brochure,
Which so many still are.
right, into a dynamic, robust asset,
Right.
one that's actually primed for market leadership in this brand new era of AI-driven discovery. And trust me, the ground beneath our digital feed has definitely shifted. For decades, it was, well, all about SEO, right? Search engine optimization.
The classic approach.
The goal, rank high on a SERP search engine results page and get those precious clicks. That was the game. But now we're hearing about generative engine optimization, GEO. So what's the core difference here? Why does it feel like everything we knew is kind of upended?
Well, the shift to GEO is frankly monumental. We're moving away from that predictable list of blue links
Yeah.
to something much more probabilistic, more conversational. Imagine asking an AI, like ChatGPT or Google's AI overviews, a question.
And you get a direct answer, right? Not just links.
Exactly. An answer often synthesized from multiple sources. So visibility in this new world, it's not about being position number one anymore.
Okay, so what is it about then?
It's about your brand, your content being cited or mentioned or even woven directly into that AI-generated response.
Woven right in, like part of the fabric of the answer.
Precisely. Think Google's AI overviews, Microsoft Copilot, OpenAI's ChatGPT. That's where visibility is happening now.
So if your brand gets synthesized into an AI answer, that means you could gain serious influence, drive action even, without a single click from that initial discovery point.
That's exactly it.
Wow. That's wild.
Hmm.
It kind of makes traditional traffic analytics,
Er,
well, partially obsolete for understanding that first touch point, that initial brand awareness,
It does. It forces a rethink. And this isn't just theory. The market's already showing this change.
like actual data.
Yeah. Back in May 2025, Apple's senior VP, Eddie Q, he confirmed that the Safari browser saw its first ever decline in search queries in 22 years.
22 years. And he linked it directly to AI search.
Directly attributed it to the rise of AI search.
Right.
So, look, this isn't some fleeting trend. It's a permanent restructuring, a fundamental shift in how people find information.
Which means websites not optimized for this new conversational layer, they risk just disappearing.
Becoming invisible to a huge and growing segment of users.
Okay, so that's the challenge, a big one. How do we adapt? The blueprint we're diving into today lays out this tripartite framework, 3 core pillars for modern digital success.
It's designed to be comprehensive, integrated, future-proof, hopefully. It addresses the machines, the user expectations, and crucially, that genuine human connection.
Right. Let's break them down. Pillar 1 is technical and semantic readiness. We're calling it generative engine optimization, or GEO. This sounds like it's all about the nuts and bolts, architecting your website for machine comprehension.
Exactly. LLMs, AI crawlers. They aren't impressed by flashy design or, complex animations. They prioritize efficiency, speed, crystal clarity.
So they need things clean and simple.
Think of them like super fast, laser-focused digital vacuum cleaners. They squeak the web. If your content isn't perfectly structured, easily accessible, incredibly fast to load,
They just skip over.
they just pass right over it. So a technically ready site needs robust schema markup. Think of it like giving AI a perfectly organized index card for every single piece of content.
Okay, index cards for AI. I like that.
Simplified architecture, optimized page speed. The whole goal here is making your content not just crawlable, but effortlessly digestible for these AI systems.
Makes perfect sense for the machines. But okay, we've made our site digestible for AI. How do we make sure the content itself is seen as, trustworthy, authoritative,
Now you're hitting on pillar 2.
which is content credibility and authority, the EAT framework.
Precisely. Based on Google's framework, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness.
And with this explosion of AI-generated content flooding the web, this pillar feels absolutely vital. It's about differentiating, right? Standing out from the noise.
It's the critical differentiator.
Hmm.
When AI can churn out articles lightning fast, how do you prove your content isn't just okay, but deeply informed? That it comes from genuine, firsthand experience, verifiable
It's
expertise.
not just a nice to have anymore.
It's a critical survival strategy. This pillar is all about building and showcasing signals that are incredibly difficult, maybe impossible, for AI to fake authentically. It's your brand's verifiable digital fingerprint of credibility.
Okay, so
Mm.
technically sound for AI, check. Content is credible, check. But how do we build a brand that people actually remember, that they feel connected to beyond just the facts?
And that brings us beautifully to Pillar 3. Human connection and engagement achieved through narrative storytelling.
The storytelling piece.
This is where the art comes in. Using natural, authentic storytelling transforms your brand from just, say, a service provider into something relatable, an entity people connect with.
It's about weaving a compelling narrative.
Your company's story, your customers' success stories, it builds emotional bonds, it enhances engagement, it fosters a level of trust that goes way beyond just a transaction.
That's what makes a brand unforgettable, not just visible, but memorable.
Exactly. In the long run, that's key.
So it's the convergence, these three pillars working together, technical readiness, content credibility, human connection, that creates this powerful, defensible, digital presence. That's how you position a website to win in this new landscape.
That's the core idea. They're all interconnected.
All right, let's really dive deep now, starting with EET, Module I. You said projecting credibility is maybe the single most important strategic differentiator now, with all the automated content out there. So how does this blueprint actually measure EEAT? It's not just a feeling, right?
No, definitely not. The system doesn't just give you one vague score. It actually deconstructs EAT into granular, quantifiable signals. It gets really specific.
Okay, like what? Let's start with E for experience.
Mhm.
Google added that one specifically to reward firsthand involvement, right?
Exactly. So for experience, we're looking for things like the use of first-person narrative. My experience showed me anecdotal language, NLP, natural language processing, can actually detect that.
Interesting. What else signals experience?
Original media is huge. Analyzing image or video metadata to distinguish your own proprietary assets, unique photos documenting a process, an experiment you ran from generic stock photos.
So ditch the cheesy stock photos if you can.
If you want to signal real experience, yes. Also, user-generated content, UGC, things like customer testimonials, detailed case studies, user reviews actually embedded on your site.
Real people sharing their experiences.
And finally, content originality. Semantically comparing your content against the wider web to flag if it's just, summarizing what everyone else says, versus providing genuinely unique insights or original data.
So for experience, it really boils down to proving you've actually done the thing. Walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Showing your work digitally.
You got it. It's about demonstrating that direct involvement.
Okay, next item, expertise. How do you demonstrate that deeper knowledge, the qualifications?
Expertise is about showcasing depth and formal qualifications. A big one is authorial transparency.
Meaning clear author bios.
Exactly. The presence and completeness of author biographies. Do they list credentials, certifications, educational background? Do they link out to professional profiles like LinkedIn? An absence of clear authorship or just using generic admin or ghostwriters, that's often a red flag for expertise.
Right. And what else?
We also look at content depth and specificity. Does the content dive deep? Does it use industry-specific terminology correctly? Does it address nuanced aspects beyond just the surface-level stuff?
Going beyond the one-on-one level.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And crucially, the quality of your citations. Are you linking out? And if so, what are you linking to? Prioritizing links to peer-reviewed studies, reputable industry reports, high-authority domains that signals true expertise, not just a casual understanding.
Okay, moving on to A, authoritativeness. This is more about reputation, standing within the industry. How is that measured?
Spot on. Authoritativeness is about your place in the broader conversation. This involves sophisticated backlink analysis, but it's not just about quantity anymore.
Quality over quantity for links.
Absolutely. Prioritizing links from relevant and authoritative domains, industry leaders, reputable news outlets, top-tier publications. One link from a major industry journal can be worth more than hundreds from low-quality directories.
Makes sense. What else builds authority?
We also scrape the web for unlinked mentions in high-value contexts. Your CEO quoted on a major podcast, your company mentioned on a conference agenda, an expert panel appearance. Even without a link, these signal authority.
So off-site reputation matters.
Definitely. Plus, we analyze topical authority on your site itself. Assessing the content architecture, do you have deep, interconnected clusters of content around your core subjects? That indicates true dominance and authority in that specific niche.
Okay, finally, Tia, trustworthiness. You called this the foundational, most critical component. Why is it the bedrock?
It absolutely is, because without trust, nothing else really matters, does it? If users don't trust you, they won't engage, they won't convert, they won't believe your expertise.
True. So what signals trustworthiness?
It covers several areas. First, technical trust factors.
Yeah.
HTTPS is baseline now. Secure payment gateways if you handle transactions, absence of malware or deceptive practices.
The basics of a secure site.
Right. Then there's organizational transparency. Is there a physical address? A phone number? That's name, address, phone number, NIP data. Is there a comprehensive About Us page? Clear policies, privacy, terms, returns.
Showing you're a real, accountable entity.
Exactly. Content accuracy and maintenance are also key trust signals. Are there last updated dates on content? Do you have an error correction policy? Do you actively fact check, especially for sensitive your money or your life topics like finance or health?
Keeping things current and accurate.
And a vital one, online reputation and sentiment analysis. Monitoring mentions of your brand and authors across the web reviews, forums, social media, and performing sentiment analysis. Are perceptions generally positive, neutral, or negative? High negativity is a major trust killer.
It sounds like this system gets incredibly good at sniffing out fake EET. I know Google's been cracking down hard on deceptive tactics. What are some things it looks for?
Yeah, the system's designed to be sophisticated there. It actively looks for things like fictitious author personas, using AI-generated headshots and completely fabricated credentials.
People actually do that.
No, absolutely. Trying to game the system. So we use AI generation detection tools that look for linguistic patterns common in AI writing, generic tone, lack of nuance, repetitive structures, sometimes even those weird hallucinations where the AI just makes stuff up.
Wow. How else do you verify?
We perform author profile verification, cross-referencing claimed credentials against external authoritative sources like LinkedIn, university directories, official registries. Is this person actually real and qualified?
Checking their homework.
Basically, yes. And ultimately, it performs a people-first content assessment. Looking beyond the signals, does this content feel genuinely helpful to a human reader? Or does it feel engineered purely to manipulate search rankings? That requires a nuanced evaluation.
Okay, so knowing all these signals, it feels overwhelming. How do you even begin to assess your own EAT? How do you know if you're good, bad, or just average?
That's precisely why competitive EET benchmarking is so crucial in this process. Your EEAT strength isn't absolute. It's always relative to your direct competitors.
Right, you need context.
Exactly. So let's look at a sample scorecard from the blueprint. For experience, maybe under original media, a client scores, say, 45 out of 100. But competitor A scores 85 because they heavily use original video case studies and unique photos. That gap tells a story.
Okay, so you see where you're lagging.
Or for user-generated content, the client might be at 20, while competitors B and A are at 75 and 60 because they effectively integrate customer reviews and detailed testimonials right onto their product pages.
Big difference.
Huge. And look at expertise. For author bios, the client scores 30, but competitors A and B are at 90 and 80 because they consistently feature authors with verifiable PhDs, industry awards, clear credentials linked out.
That immediately builds more trust in their content.
Absolutely. Or authoritativeness. For median and press mentions, the client is at 15, competitor A is at 75 because they're frequently quoted in industry news. That shows who the recognized authorities are.
And trustworthiness.
Maybe the client has a reputation sentiment score of 5.2 out of 10, while competitor A is at 8.1. That low score for the client might point to broader business health issues, maybe negative customer reviews piling up because of a poor product or bad service.
So the EAT score can reflect real-world business problems.
Definitely. Which is why the recommendations aren't just SEO tweaks, they become strategic imperatives. Add detailed author bios isn't just ticking a box. It becomes strategically showcase your in-house expertise to build market trust and clearly differentiate your brand from competitors who aren't transparent.
It reframes the task. It really seems like experience is emerging as the most durable competitive advantage against AI, doesn't it?
I strongly believe that. AI can summarize existing information incredibly well. It can be grammatically perfect.
But it can't live something.
Exactly. It can't replicate genuine firsthand lived experience. It hasn't personally tested your product in the field, documented your unique experiment with original photos, or shared a truly personal, relevant anecdote that resonates.
And Google adding experience to EEAT was basically a direct response to generative AI.
It seems very likely. A clear signal that they prefer content that is irrefutably human, authentic, and grounded in real-world interaction. That's much harder to fake or automate.
Okay, so we've established credibility with EEAT. Now, how do we make sure that credibility is actually visible? How do we make it accessible to these AI systems?
That's the perfect transition to Module 2, Generative Engine Optimization, GEO, and Technical Readiness Analysis.
This is where we connect the credibility to the machine.
Precisely. This module is all about ensuring your hard-earned EEET actually gets seen, understood, and potentially used by the AI models. And the core of this is something we call the LLM visibility audit.
LLM visibility audit.
Yeah.
What's that measure? Because traditional analytics are built around the click, right?
Right. But in this new GEO world, a lot of significant brand discovery happens within the LLM interface itself, in the chat window, in the AI overview, often without a direct click to your website ever happening.
The invisible influence.
Exactly. This audit aims to make that previously invisible influence visible. We need new ways to measure impact beyond the click.
So what kind of metrics are we talking about here? Things beyond traditional website traffic.
Definitely. We systematically query the major LLMs, ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, Perplexity, etc. for relevant topics, and track things like raw brand mentions. How often does your brand name pop up in responses?
Okay, simple frequency.
Then citations. This is key. Are there direct clickable links to your website within the LLM response? That's a direct referral opportunity.
It's more like traditional SEO value.
It is, but within the AI context, we also look at share of model. For a given topic, what's your brand's percentage of the total mentions compared to your key competitors within that specific LLM? Are you dominating the conversation, or are you barely there?
Share a voice, but for AI.
Kind of, yeah. Then, sentiment of mentions. Using NLP, we classify if those mentions are positive, negative, or neutral in context. Are you being praised or criticized?
Crucial context.
And finally, for the clicks that do happen from these platforms, we track referral traffic from LLMs, integrating with your analytics tools like GA4 to see how much traffic is actually coming from users clicking links within AI responses. It gives you the full picture.
That sounds incredibly important for understanding your true reach now. Okay, let's get technical. What are the key technical aspects we need to absolutely nail? You mentioned AI crawlers are different beasts.
They really are.
Yeah.
And this is critical. AI crawlers like OpenAI's GPT bot or Anthropic's Claude bot, they're often way more aggressive than Google's traditional bot.
More of us of how.
They crawl faster, hit your server harder, and crucially, they often have much, much shorter server timeouts. We're talking maybe just 1 to 5 seconds to get the content.
1 to 5 seconds. That's incredibly fast.
It is. And here's the kicker. Many of these AI crawlers do not execute client-side JavaScript.
Right, you mentioned this. This is the big one.
It's a massive technical liability for a huge portion of the modern web that relies heavily on JavaScript frameworks like React, Angular, Vue to render content in the browser.
So if your key content, your navigation, your product info, if it only appears after JavaScript runs in the user's browser,
then many of these critical AI crawlers might just see a blank page or an incomplete page. They can't index what they can't see rendered in that initial HTML payload.
Meaning they can't even find all that great EEAP compliant content you worked so hard on.
Exactly. It's a huge problem. Your credibility becomes invisible to the machine.
Wow. Okay, so what's on the technical checklist to diagnose and fix this?
First is a JavaScript dependency audit. We essentially crawl the site twice, once simulating a browser that runs JavaScript, and once simulating a crawler that doesn't. Then we compare what content, what links, what functionality disappears in the non-JS version. That tells you what's invisible.
Pinpointing the problem areas.
Then, page speed and core web vitals become even more critical because of those short crawler timeouts. We intensely focus on metrics like time to first byte, TTFB, how quickly the server responds, and largest contentful paint, LCP. Slow sites get skipped.
Speed is paramount.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, HTML structure and semantic clarity. Is the underlying code clean?
Yeah.
Logically organized? Does it use header tags, H1, H2, H3 properly to structure content? Convoluted code makes it harder for AI to extract information efficiently.
Keep it clean and logical.
And checking crawlability and bot directives. Looking closely at your robots.txt file. Are you accidentally blocking important AI bots like GPT-bot, Claude-bot, or Google Extended? And we're also watching the emerging LMMs.txt standard, which aims to provide even more granular control over which AI models can access specific parts of your site.
More control's good.
Hopefully. And the big architectural piece we discussed, rendering strategy analysis.
Server-side rendering, SSR, versus client-side rendering, CSR. Remind us of the analogy. Flat pack versus assembled furniture.
That's the one. CSR is the flat pack kit. The browser does the assembly using JavaScript. SSR, or static site generation, SSG, delivers the fully assembled piece, the complete HTML, directly from the server.
And AI prefers the assembled version.
Overwhelmingly, because it guarantees they see the full content immediately without needing to execute JavaScript. So if a site audit reveals essential content relies heavily on CSR, a migration to SSR or SSG becomes a high priority, often critical recommendation. It ensures that fully rendered HTML page gets delivered to all crawlers.
Okay, beyond the JavaScript issue, what else falls under this technical readiness?
Semantic and entity-based optimization. Modern search, especially AI-driven search, is moving beyond simple keyword matching. It's about understanding entities.
Entities being?
Distinct concepts: a person, a product, a location, a company, an event. These entities are connected via relationships, forming a knowledge graph. AI thrives on this structured understanding.
So how do you optimize for entities?
It starts with clear, consistent, and unambiguous use of your primary entities across your site. For a local business, this means ensuring your name, address, phone number, your NAP data is identical everywhere it appears. For products, using consistent model numbers, SKUs.
Consistency is key.
And then schema markup audit. This is absolutely non-negotiable for AI readiness. Structured data using schema.org vocabulary is foundational. It's how you explicitly tell search engines and AI systems what your content is about, what entities it contains, and how they relate. It directly feeds knowledge graphs and retrieval augmented generation (RAG) systems that power many AI answers.
So schema is like the instruction manual for your content.
A very detailed one. We audit for comprehensive use of relevant schema types: organization, local business, website, article, FAQ page, service, product, whatever fits the content. We validate it, ensuring it uses the preferred JSON LD format. And crucially, we analyze the nesting of schema types and the use of @id properties. This isn't just about having isolated blocks of schema, it's about creating a connected graph of entities within your site's kind. That's incredibly powerful for AI understanding.
It sounds like there's this really powerful symbiotic relationship between EET, Pillar 2, and GEO, Pillar 1. They really feed each other.
Absolutely. They are deeply interconnected. LLMs are inherently more likely to trust and therefore cite sources that exhibit strong EEAT signals. Clear author credentials found via good schema, positive online sentiment discovered through crawling, high-quality backlinks, signaling authority, original content identified as unique.
So improving your EAT directly makes you more attracted to AI.
It directly increases the probability of your content being selected, synthesized, and featured in an AI-generated answer. Your credibility makes your content more valuable to the AI.
And conversely, the technical GEO work ensures that credibility is actually visible.
Exactly. That fundamental architectural realignment, especially moving from client-side rendering to server-side rendering if needed, isn't just a technical tweak for speed. It's a necessary step for basic visibility on this new multi-crawler internet. You can have the most credible, authoritative content in the world.
But if the AI crawler sees a blank page because of JavaScript issues,
it doesn't matter. Your EET is invisible. They work hand in hand.
Let's look at a practical example from a GEO technical readiness audit table, like the one in the blueprint. Make this tangible.
Okay. Say for rendering strategy, JavaScript dependency, the audit shows the client site has 75% of its core content effectively invisible without JavaScript rendering.
3/4 gone.
Yeah. Meanwhile, competitor A has only 10% invisible, and competitor B only 5%. That's an immediate critical vulnerability for the client. The AI simply won't see most of their site.
Massive red flag.
And if under server-side rendering, the client shows not implemented, while both competitors show fully implemented, another critical technical gap. They're delivering fully assembled pages, the client isn't.
They're playing a different game.
Indeed. Even something like Core Web Vitals. If the client scores poor, say 6tune 2100, while competitors are good, 95, 109 to 11, 100, that poor speed translates directly into a higher bounce rate for those impatient AI crawlers we talked about.
You just give up and leave.
Pretty much. And similarly, if schema markup coverage is minimal for the client, maybe 15%, but Comprehensive for competitors at 85% or 90%, that's a major lost opportunity to communicate clearly and directly with AI systems about what their content means. These examples show very specific, actionable technical vulnerabilities that directly impact AI discoverability and need urgent attention.
Okay, crystal clear. We've covered making the website credible for humans, EEAT, and technically digestible for machines, GEO. Now, let's move to the third pillar, Module 3, Narrative and Visual Experience Analysis. This module feels different. It's focusing on that crucial element of human connection, driving conversions, loyalty, moving beyond just the technical.
Exactly. This module deconstructs the story your website tells, both explicitly through its words and implicitly through its design and visuals. It's about how you make people feel and what you inspire them to do.
So where do you start with analyzing a story?
We perform a brand narrative deconstruction and competitive analysis. This means looking at key pages, homepage, about page, core service pages, and identifying the core story elements. Is there a clear hero? Which should ideally always be your customer, by the way, not your brand.
Right. Make the customer the hero of the story.
What's their problem or challenge? How does your product or service act as the solution or the guide? And what's the ultimate transformation or success they achieve? We analyze if your website clearly, consistently communicates this classic narrative structure.
And I guess the tone of voice is huge here.
Yeah.
A website isn't just words, it's the feeling those words create.
It absolutely is. We analyze linguistic patterns, vocabulary choice, sentence structure. We score it for consistency across the site. Because a jarring inconsistency, like a warm, empathetic About Us page talking about values, immediately followed by cold, aggressive, jargon-filled product description.
Yeah, that feels off.
It feels off because it suggests internal silos. Maybe marketing wrote the About page and a product team wrote the descriptions and they never talked. That inconsistency severely erodes trust. It feels inauthentic.
Okay, and you also mentioned brand archetypes, like Jungian archetypes.
Exactly. We classify the client's brand and their competitors' brands using the 12 classic archetypes. The sage, the hero, the jester, the caregiver, the innocent, the explorer, etc.
Why do that?
It reveals narrative crowding. Is everyone in your market trying to be the serious, authoritative sage? If so, maybe there's a huge opportunity to stand out by adopting a different archetype, like the playful jester or the empowering hero, creating a truly distinct brand personality. It helps find your unique voice.
Finding space in the narrative landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So the words tell a story, the tone sets the mood. How do visuals play into this? It's not just about what you say, but what you show.
Indeed. A huge part of this module is the visual hierarchy and storytelling audit. Web design isn't just about aesthetics. It's about strategically guiding the user's eye and supporting the narrative journey you want them to take.
How do you audit that? What principles are you looking for?
We audit against key design principles. Size and scale are the most important elements visually dominant, color and contrast. Is color used strategically to guide attention, evoke specific emotions, maybe red for urgency on a CTA, blue for trust in testimonials?
Using color psychology.
Right. White space or negative space. Is there enough breathing room to prevent clutter and create a clear visual path, or is it overwhelming? Placement and proximity. Are related items grouped logically? Does the layout guide the eye in a natural sequence, like the F pattern or Z pattern people tend to read in?
Making it easy to follow.
And a huge one here, tying back to EET, authenticity of visual media, we actively distinguish between generic, impersonal stock photos.
Which everyone uses.
Exactly. And original, story-driven visuals. Photos or videos that feature your real team members, your actual products in realistic use cases, genuine customer scenarios. That authenticity builds trust and reinforces the experience signal we talked about earlier.
So the visuals directly support the credibility and the story. Okay, how does all this connect to getting users to actually do something? How do these compelling narratives and visuals lead to conversions?
That's where we map the user journey and CTA effectiveness. It's not enough to have a good story on one page. The narrative needs to flow across the entire journey.
From discovery to decision.
Precisely. We analyze the narrative and emotional consistency across critical user paths. Say, from reading a blog post that introduces a problem, to landing on a service page that offers the solution, to finally hitting a request a quote page, does the story build logically? Does the emotional tone remain consistent? Or does it feel disjointed?
Ensuring a smooth narrative flow.
And then we perform a detailed call to action, CTA, effectiveness audit. We look closely at your CTAs against best practices.
Like what?
CTA copy analysis. Is the language strong, clear, and action-oriented, using verbs like get, discover, start? Is it benefit-focused? Start my free trial, get your custom report. Does it leverage psychological triggers like curiosity, exclusivity, or fear of missing out? FOMO.
Making the button compelling.
CTA design analysis. Does the button visually stand out with contrasting color? Is there enough white space around it? Is it large enough to be easily clickable on all devices, especially mobile?
Can people actually see it and click it?
CTA placement analysis. Is the CTA positioned at the logical conclusion of the narrative arc on the page? Does it align with natural reading patterns? Is it easy to find when the user is ready to act?
Putting it where it makes sense.
It all works together to guide the user naturally towards the desired action, prompted by the story you've told.
So it sounds like this narrative and storytelling piece isn't just soft marketing fluff at all. It actually connects back strategically to things like EET and even overall business health.
Precisely. That disjointed narrative we talked about, it often signals deeper organizational issues, marketing, sales, product teams perhaps not aligned, operating in silos. This lack of a unified brand strategy creates a fragmented user experience online, which, as we said, erodes trust. So the recommendations coming out of this module often prompt critical internal alignment conversations.
Fixing the website forces you to fix internal communication.
It often highlights the need for it, yes. And storytelling is a powerful strategic tool for fulfilling the experience and trust components of EET. Your factual content, your technical specs, they convey expertise and authoritativeness. But those crucial human and emotional pillars, they are fundamentally built through storytelling.
How so? Give me examples.
Well, case studies aren't just data, they are stories of customer transformation and success. Your founder's journey isn't just history, it's a story that conveys purpose, values, and passion-building trust. Customer testimonials aren't just quotes, they are mini stories of success that provide powerful social proof. Storytelling makes the EEAT signals human and relatable.
Let's look at that brand narrative and visual consistency matrix example again, like the EEAT scorecard.
Yeah.
How does it make this tangible?
Okay, so under identified brand archetype, the analysis might show the client is all over the place. Maybe they come across as the creator on the homepage, then shift to a commanding ruler tone on a service page, and suddenly become the knowledgeable sage on the blog. It's confusing.
No clear personality.
Right. Meanwhile, competitor A is consistently positioned as the hero across their site, always focusing on empowering the customer. And competitor B is consistently the jester, using wit and humor throughout. That consistency builds a much stronger, more memorable brand identity.
Okay, what else does the matrix show?
Tone of voice. The client might swing wildly from formal and corporate to aggressive and hard sell, then suddenly shift to casual and educational, maybe even on the same page.
Tone whiplash.
Exactly. In stark contrast, competitor A maintains a consistently aspirational and confident tone, while competitor B is reliably witty and playful. And under authenticity of imagery, if the client is still relying on 100% stock photos,
Heat red flag again.
they're immediately at a disadvantage compared to competitors who showcase, say, 70% or 90% original story-driven visuals featuring real people and products. This matrix makes these seemingly abstract concepts, archetype, tone, visual authenticity, tangible, measurable, and actionable for building a cohesive and compelling brand experience.
This has been a truly comprehensive deep dive into the three pillars. Okay, so you've done all this analysis, EEAT, GEO, narrative. You have tons of data, scorecards, audits. Now what? The real value isn't just the data dump, right? It's turning it into a plan.
Exactly. The final and arguably most critical step is synthesizing all this complex analysis into a clear, prioritized, actionable strategy. This is where we generate the client redevelopment roadmap.
How
Yeah.
do you prioritize? There must be dozens, maybe hundreds of potential actions.
Or often are. The core tool for prioritization is a straightforward prioritization matrix. It's a simple 2x2 grid.
Okay, what are the axes?
The y-axis represents potential impact running from low to high. Impact is judged based on how strongly an action aligns with fixing critical issues identified in those three strategic pillars.
Not.
For instance, fixing a major technical blocker preventing AI crawling has very high impact. Fixing a typo on an obscure page has low impact.
Makes sense. And the x-axis.
The x-axis is implementation effort, also low to high. This considers the time, resources, complexity involved. Updating a meta description is low effort. Re-architecting the entire website's rendering framework from CSR to SSR is very high effort.
Okay, impact versus effort. Classic prioritization. So this gives you 4 quadrants.
Precisely. And they guide the roadmap. Quadrant 1 is quick wins, high impact, low effort. These are your absolute top priorities. Get the most bang for your buck fastest. Things like fixing broken schema markup that's hurting AI visibility, adding complete author bios to key expert articles to boost EEET, rewriting a confusing homepage CTA.
Get those done first.
Quadrant 2 is major projects, high impact, high effort. These are the big foundational changes that build long-term competitive advantage but require significant resources. Migrating from client-side to server-side rendering often falls here. Developing a series of in-depth video case studies, a complete visual redesign.
Strategic investments.
Quadrant 3 is fill-ins. Low impact, low effort. These are smaller tasks, nice to haves for incremental improvement. Do them when time permits, maybe between major projects. Optimizing image alt text on older blog posts, minor copy tweaks.
Keep chipping away.
Quadrant 4 is reconsider. Low impact, high effort. These are the things you should probably deprioritize or ignore altogether. The resource investment just isn't justified by the potential payoff. Maybe a complex animation that adds little narrative value.
Avoid those resource drains.
Yeah.
Got it. So the roadmap is prioritized. What kind of concrete, actionable recommendations does it actually produce? Does it go beyond just saying improve your tone?
Oh, absolutely. It gets very specific. For the front-end visual and narrative recommendations, it's not just abstract advice. It provides things like concrete examples of rewritten copy for critical pages, homepage headlines, key service descriptions, specific high-opportunity blog post ideas structured around compelling storytelling frameworks, even low-fidelity wireframes or mock-ups suggesting improved visual hierarchy for key templates.
Actual examples to work from.
Yes, and specific, consistent color palettes and typographic scales to enforce brand consistency. Plus, flagging generic stock photography with specific recommendations for sourcing or creating authentic, story-driven imagery needed to boost that experience signal for EEAT.
Very practical. And for the technical side, for the developers listening, what about the framework and recoding recommendations? Is it detailed enough for them to act on?
Definitely. It's designed as a comprehensive technical brief ready for the development team. Critically, if that JavaScript dependency audit revealed extensive invisible content,
The CSR problem.
the primary recommendation will be a high-priority migration from client-side rendering to server-side rendering or static site generation, and the roadmap will include detailed explanations, technical considerations, and rationale for the dev team.
The why behind the what.
Exactly. It also provides complete, validated, properly nested JSON-LD schema code examples ready for copy-pasting into the site templates, and a prioritized performance optimization checklist with specific instructions, image compression settings, techniques for deferring render blocking scripts, code minification tools to use. It's designed to be directly implementable.
So devs get code snippets and checklists.
Nice.
Yeah.
What feels really unique here is the integrated strategy part. You're saying it's not three separate reports, EEET, GEO, narrative that the client has to somehow stitch together.
That's the key differentiator. It's a single, unified roadmap. The power is in explicitly connecting the dots between all these findings. We show how a single action can serve multiple strategic goals across the pillars.
Okay, give us that integrated example again, the video case studies one that really highlighted this synergy. Right. The recommendation might read something like this. Based on our comprehensive analysis across EEAT, GEO, and narrative, we recommend a high-priority initiative to create a series of in-depth video case studies featuring your top clients. This single action addresses critical gaps across all three pillars. First, it significantly enhances your EEAT how by showcasing genuine experience through original client data, visuals, and powerful testimonials, and it demonstrates expertise if you have your lead engineers or strategists author the accompanying blog posts analyzing the results. It also builds trust through social proof.
Okay, hitting multiple EEAT signals.
Second, it boosts your GEO readiness. Why? Because this rich content can be marked up with article, video object, and potentially review schema. This makes it highly structured and digestible for LLMs, increasing your chances of being cited or synthesized into AI overviews and answers.
Making it AI-friendly.
And third, it strengthens your brand narrative. How? By telling compelling stories of transformation for your customers. It moves beyond features and benefits to showcase real-world impact, building an emotional connection and providing powerful social proof that builds, again, trust.
Wow. Okay, one initiative, hitting targets across all three strategic areas, That's efficient.
That holistic, integrated approach combining competitive intelligence on the narrative and human side with a deep analysis of authority signals and technical readiness, that's what provides a truly future-focused blueprint. It's about sustainable market leadership, ensuring every action serves multiple strategic goals.
So let's bring it all together for everyone listening. What does this really mean for your website right now?
Yeah.
In this new AI-driven world, success clearly isn't just about keywords anymore or chasing clicks like the old days.
Not at all. It's a holistic blend. You need that technical readiness so AI crawlers can actually find and understand your content. You need that demonstrable credibility and authority, the EEAT, to cut through the noise and be trusted by both humans and AI.
And you need that compelling human connection through narrative and experience to build trust, foster loyalty, and actually make your brand memorable.
It's about being present where people are searching now, which includes AI interfaces. It's about being trusted when you're found. And it's about being memorable long after that first interaction. Presence, trust, memorability.
Presence, trust, memorability. Love that. Okay, to wrap up, here's a provocative thought for you, the listener, to ponder as you think about your own digital presence. How might the unique lived experiences of your brand, the things only you have done, the stories only you can tell when shared authentically, become your most powerful, most durable differentiator in a world increasingly filled with polished but often generic AI-generated content? Something to think about.